Welcome to this week's edition of the WRRAP podcast with me, Lee G. Very special edition this evening, but joining me as per usual, Nick, Dan, and Harley. Good evening, gents. How are you?
Evening,
All
mate.
good. All good. Thank you.
Yeah, good, thanks.
So, first live pod, which is nice. And you could say time pretty much spot on. For all those suggesting otherwise, we had no inside information, we had no prior knowledge, we had nobody tipped us off about today would be a good day to do a live pod. So yeah, we're going to do the usual stuff. We're going to do a bit of news. We're going to do bit about the Japan game, and we will then talk about the announcement and what that means for the future and all of those kind of things going forward. But if you want to chip in at any point through the proceedings, you're very welcome to say hello or make any comments or ask any questions in the chat. So I've seen a couple of people saying hello already, which is great. So hello to you guys. But if you want to chip anything in, by all means, crack on. So yeah, let's get on with it then, Nick. It's all yours. Your news desk, my friend.
Okay, thanks. Start with the Dragons. They've announced the signing of two new backs from Newport RFC. And I think both feature quite a lot this year in Super Rugby Cymru. Jack Lloyd, like his brother Johan, by choice an outside half. And utility back Di Richards is also joining the Dragons next year. It's also been announced that Reece Patchell has joined the Dragons as a kicking coach. The 32-year-old will work with the Dragons 2 days a week, helping the likes of new signing Tinder Stabir, Kai Evans, and the promising at Wales under-20 outside half, Harry Ford. The Dragons have also finally confirmed the signing of tight head prop Robert Hunt, 28, from the Cheetahs. He's also played for the Bulls in the past. And it seems the Dragons have now developing some real depth, a prop for next season. Any views on these signings, Dan, in particular?
The Robert Hunt one is a fantastic signing for me. Like you said, it adds proper depth and genuine competition at tight head. I got no doubt we'll lose one or two to international duty over the autumn and over the Six Nations. We've recently had Mr. Coleman capped as well. Whether that's going to be one and done, we'll have to wait and see. But I think Bomb likes him, so you never know. And if that's the case, then it's good to have Mr. Hunt in there rather than having us to rely on some youngsters. Not the youngsters haven't got a very high ceiling and a good future in front of them, but it's a little bit of good depth in there. Jack Lloyd and Di Richards. I think Jack has got a proper rugby future in front of him. We know the caliber of his or what his brother's capable of. He's a full international. So and who's probably been out of form a bit last season as well, especially if you speak to the Scarlets contingent on this pod, but there's no doubt about it. They come from good rugby stock. Di Richards back in. He's previously been in and around the Dragons setup before. He's sort of been in and out, but he's been rewarded this season. With his good SRC appearances, so he's been rewarded. So I think on the whole, from a player perspective, again, it's good depth. We're adding to that squad depth, so onwards and upwards. I would like to see Mr. Patchell come in on a more player-friendly basis, but maybe it's just a coaching step for him at the moment. But I wonder whether, because it's just a couple of days a week, is my understanding from what I read, sort of 2 or 3 days a week, whether he does manage to scratch that rugby playing itch, because he says that he's definitely not retired. So I find it really, really, I can't see him going anywhere else and playing and then coming back to coach 2 or 3 days a week. So something would have to give. So maybe he can take up a player coach role. Either way, it's a positive step in the right direction, because I think everyone's been impressed with Patchell's game analysis and his match awareness over the last few weeks when he's been doing comms and punditry work. So yeah, another good addition to the Dragons, and we're definitely going to be the Toulouse of the URC next season. Simple as that.
Okay. Cardiff today announced the signing of the Bath Rugby duo, Johan Emmanuel and Ian Davis, on season-long loans. Johan is currently obviously with the under-20s in Italy, played this afternoon, and Swansea-born Ian is a scrum half and obviously featured for the 20s last year, but is just out of too old. But two decent pickups, Harley.
Yeah, I mean, as we were talking with the Dragons signings, it's about adding a little bit more depth. Where we started to struggle quite a lot for loose head at the end of last season. So Domachowski and Danny Southworth had to back up an awful lot of game time switching between the two. So having an extra loose head in there is going to be good, especially someone who's shown how good he is both as a carrier and scrummager in Johan. I haven't seen a lot. I'll be honest, I haven't seen a lot of Johan, but everything I have heard from him is he's someone who a lot of the Cardiff boys are very excited to get on board. Just sort of add to the stocks with Alan and Johan playing really, really well. Ellis Bevan probably needing that kick up the rear as the third choice. Try and give him a bit more hunger. So yeah, quite excited for it. I mean, it's good that we've got some good productivity coming out of the official Cardiff finishing school in Bath. But I mean, I said if we can turn some of these season-long loans into more permanent deals, that would be better.
Yeah, it would, wouldn't it? Definitely. And talking of the under-20s, Wales under-20s, unfortunately went down today, this afternoon, to a comprehensive defeat to England under-21s by 51 to 13, 7 tries to 1. And you must remember England played 20 minutes as they were down to 14 after the red card. Wales suffered from some indiscipline as well with 2 yellow cards. So the best they can do now is finish 7th. So their last game will be this Saturday against either the home team, Italy or Australia, who are playing, I think, later this evening. So it's a very hard task and possibly a disappointing tournament after a promising Six Nations. And interesting too that despite a lot of players recently or currently attached to English teams, we still probably haven't done that well. Any views on that?
Yeah, I thought the first half we were actually competitive. I thought there wasn't much wrong with that first half. There were a couple of loose tackles here and there, but you also have to give credit to some of the English back three in particular that were willing to just have a crack from anywhere. Yeah, I think the red cards. I've seen a lot of people saying that the red cards, having a red card that early in the game, kind of the 20-minute thing didn't really affect England that much. They were able to ride it out. It was like 20 minutes of the first half, so they could kind of ride it out. But yeah, second half we just seemed to lose all discipline. I think some of the calls the referee made were inconsistent. Where we would there's literally an English player lying on the ball. We go over the top and hook the ball. We've jackled it. It's a perfectly good steal, and he's called us for going off our feet where the players still stood up. And then 3 minutes later, exactly the same thing the other way around, and it gets given the other way. And you're like, it's the inconsistency in that did kind of annoy me. But what I did like from the ref today was he told the boys off for swearing, and he told them off a couple of times, and it came through on the mic quite a bit that there was a lot of jabbing between them. So, that second half we lost it. And for whatever reason we didn't. We've kind of spoken about this at senior level where there isn't that experience there to say, right, stop, calm it down. We're losing our heads. Let's just get back to normal. Let's have 5 minutes of boring rugby, and then we'll start building from there. So we did seem to kind of lack a little bit of that, and when it started going wrong, it just unravelled really, really quickly, and we couldn't stop it. English tails were up, and like I said, they got some big boys, some really, really big boys. They brought a prop on that looked like a walk-in wardrobe. The guy was massive. He could have done the whole front row on his own. So, yeah, it is what it is. It's a shame, but there we go. I say, comes down to Saturday, and you just hope the boys can pick themselves up and go forward again from Saturday. So, yeah.
I thought we were a bit churlish in the second half. It's okay being dogged and in people's faces if you're in a close game, but when we started getting hammered, and we were hammered, when people score tries, pushing and shoving, that sort of stuff, it's silly. and do your talking on the pitch in the game.
It's been the theme of our tournament, though, hasn't it? I think losing second halves the way we have done, apart from the Spain game, we did well to start off with against Argentina, France, and now England. Did we take a lead into half-time against England today? I haven't seen all of it, just the highlights. But either way, it was close. And then we've been done over really in terms of second half performances. So I wonder whether it's a depth thing, possibly. I wonder whether there's a little bit of an emotional sort of fallout as well from, especially the Argentina game. I think they were very much, they come out in the press saying that the Argentina game was the one, and to go and lose it from such a commanding position really probably kicked them right in the teeth, especially knowing that they were never likely to go and upset France due to the depth and the fact that a load of their boys are already playing in the leagues such as Pro D2 and so on and so forth. So maybe there's a little bit of that, but up until today, mind, we've been competitive, haven't we? We've been very competitive. So maybe they've just emptied the tank prior to this, and where they haven't met the targets that they wanted to achieve, is kind of, the towel's gone in a little bit. Who knows? I thought in the group stages they give a really good account of themselves, and today they haven't. So there you go. With who do they play on Saturday now? Is there another one Saturday?
It's like, yeah, it'll either be, I think this evening it's Italy versus Australia. I don't know who would call that Italy a home team, but maybe Australia would be favourites after they pushed England very close. So probably Italy, the home nation, on Saturday, which will be a tough to ask again.
We won out there in the Six Nations, though, didn't we? So we know
Yeah,
that we can do
we
that.
can beat them.
And if we win that, where does that leave us? Like eighth,
Seventh. We finished eighth last year.
So it'll be an improvement.
Well, we won one game last year. We've won one game so far this year. So yeah,
Fingers crossed then. Fingers crossed.
I'm very unsafe saying improvement, Dan. It's not a word that we use very often on the pod.
Well, I had my toes out at the time, but I think 7's less than 8. So
Good point.
Right. Speaking of improvements, that's it for news, I'm assuming, Nick.
Yes, nothing else. No.
Nothing more. So, right. Okay, let's talk about the improvement that was the Japan game on Saturday. So, first things first, you three all got the predictions wrong because you all predicted a Japan win. I was the only one that actually predicted a Wales win, so I'm taking that as the moral high ground going.
No. I said Wales would win. I just said they'd win by more. I said 58 or 54-7.
Oh,
we'd
yeah,
win.
you came up. Yeah, you said like.
So I was the most positive.
Well, it was a win, and I think that was the key bit for Saturday. Was it was a win. So let's just kick off with general kind of impressions of the game. Harley, you get the lead on this one. So what did you think of Japan and Wales?
I mean, it was definitely a better get. I think Wales played a lot better this time, which we won as well, which is always helpful. I thought we actually tried more in attack, whereas I think the week before last week we were so focused on we're just doing kicking game. It's going to be right, one carry kick. Whereas there was actually a bit of play. Scored some very nice tries off of it. It was a bit more like what I'd expected a team under Matt Sherritt to do. That said, I still think we left a lot of chances begging, despite actually having a very good conversion rate in the 22 of almost 5 points per entry. There was still quite a few, the Josh Adams drop ball. I know I got called back for a penalty, but there were a few other ones where we bust the line and just didn't quite get past the hand. But it was just good seeing that. I thought the set piece was a lot better. Admittedly, the base, it was quite a low bar. Otherwise, I think there's still some issues with getting the ball from the ruck to the first receiver. A few balls going straight to feet. And I'll be honest, when Japan scored that second try, I very much got twitchy. And it was like, oh no, is it happening again? And then we got that will just tried to pull us home and hosed, and then it was just like, I think even when we were still on 80 minutes and 9 points clear, I still thought that Japan were going to score and we'd give away a penalty, so they'd get a restart.
You always, it's one of the things, isn't it? Where you're on a bad run of form, you never start celebrating at like 79 minutes. You know, where when you're having a good run, you get to 60 minutes and you go, okay, we've got this in the bag. I'm just going to nip and get another couple of pints. Whereas Saturday, it was very much, well, we'll wait till it's 81 minutes. We'll wait till the ball's dead. Let's not count the chickens, sort of thing. So, Nick, what did you make of the game?
Uh, as I say, I think the result was more important than the performance. Uh, I thought certain players played all right, others were very inconsistent. They had some good parts, and they had some less, more certainly less than good. I'd like to think, I think Tom Rogers had a very good game because he was shoved into the centre at the end of the game, and he actually got the turnover at the end and then kicked it into 50-22, I think. I thought he had a very good game. Thought Dan Edwards was played like a 21-year-old playing his first start. He did some really good things, and he did some less good things as well. But he stayed on and did his job. Played 80 minutes. Hardy, it was a very hardy performance. I've seen him play that sometimes. Like when the Ospreys went up at Glasgow, his kicking is very inconsistent. There were some kicks which were decent and we competed, and I think Adams' try came off a turnover from Hardy kick, but he also did some really poor things. Got charged down again. It wasn't Dan Edwards' fault, the interception try. Dan can suddenly grow 6 inches. The pass was too high, and it wasn't a difficult pass on the base of the ruck. Uh, whether so. But overall, I'm really pleased for Keelan Giles. I thought he did all right when he came on, and also the final try, they finally had the sense to move Hardy. He was absolutely knackered and had played 150 minutes at scrum half in 2 games. And when Ruben came to 9, Ruben Morgan Williams, we suddenly sped up a game, and fantastic pass by Plumtree, which allowed Dan Edwards to go over. So lots of things that went right, but ultimately it's the win. The monkey's off the back. The new coach can start, at least with having won a game, and people won't be talking about we've lost 19 in the run. So that's the best thing.
So, before I get Dan's views on it, what I will say about Hardy. Now, let me be clear, I've been critical of Hardy in the past, but I do it from a technical point of view. Like you were saying, Nick, some of his passing was low, some of his kicking wasn't great, etc., etc. The abuse that got leveled at him on social media after that game was just bang out of order. It was so far out of order, it was unreal. And we've said this in the past, and we've said it in our chat groups where it's very easy to kind of allow the mob on social media to kind of run away with your comments. Somebody says something, then it gets a little bit higher, then it gets a little bit higher, and before you know it, you're making comments that you don't mean, you don't really think about the other end of it. And I know that some of his family got really upset. He's out in Japan, and whether we like it or not, he's got a Welsh shirt on and he's doing his best. He might not be having a great game, but the guy's doing his best. But his family is sitting at home looking at social media and looking at the abuse. And sometimes before we press send, we just need to have a little word with ourselves about, is that really going to add anything to the conversation about what's happening? And this is what I said to you guys over the weekend, where there's a difference between saying, somebody's completely useless, and one of the comments I saw was the guy needs to be shot if he ever gets near a Welsh training camp. That's completely out of the ballpark. Or you go, do you know what? I'd just like to see him work on his passing to hand. and you think about how does that message actually get to the other side. So yeah, off my soapbox now. I've cleared my chest on that, where some people were bang out of order on Saturday. So Dan, your overall general thoughts on the game on Saturday?
We got over the line, didn't we? Which was the most important thing. That was, can you think of a bigger win in the last however many years for Wales? All jokes aside, I know we've won Grand Slams. In 2019, we picked up the last Grand Slam, so it's not that long ago, but this just felt bigger. I felt a real huge sigh of relief when the boys got over the line on Saturday morning, like you guys had got up to watch it. And I was just really pleased for everybody. You could see how much it meant to Jockey and to Dewi Lake and to all the others. And I think sometimes, unless you've been in, it's one thing losing for your club, isn't it? Right? You get a chance to put it right every week. You don't get that opportunity when you play international rugby. You do when you're playing in, your Six Nations and so on and so forth. But then if you've had a real crap Six Nations, you've won the wooden spoon, you've got to wait a couple of months to get a monkey off your back. Well, at last they've done it. And in reality, I think it should have been more comfortable than what it was. As the boys have already alluded to, I think we left at least 2 tries out there. Josh Adams dropped the ball or knocked the ball on over the line. That would have been a 7-pointer for us. There was one period of play in the first half where I think it was Tom Rogers got to an edge. He scoots down the right-hand touchline, and there's a 4v1 that goes begging. If we execute that properly, that's the sort of thing that, your coach under 10s to do 4v1, we should be knocking those off. And again, we score under the points. Under the post, sorry, that's a 14-point swing. On top of that, one of their scores have come from a Hardy charge down, and the other one comes from that pass to Dan Edwards where they go the length of the field. That's a 28-point swing in total. So in reality, I think it should have been much more comfortable than what it was. So, I touched on Hardy there again. Who's pretty much status quo from the weekend before, I thought, from Kieran, which is unfortunate for him. And again, like you said, it's not anything personal, but when Ruben Morgan-Williams came on late in the second half, those forwards are tired. He's had 5 minutes there, but he's bringing players onto the ball. He's challenging the line, he's a scoot around, challenging that A and B defender, making the defence think, and bringing people into the game a bit more. And the speed of ball was much quicker. So that improved our game no end. And I would say unless, the reality is Kieran Hardy's probably played himself out of the next Welsh squad, I would have thought, for the autumn internationals, depending on his, whether he has some miraculous return to form playing club rugby. The one other individual that I was critical of last week was Josh McLeod. And I'll die on that hill from the week before. I didn't think he was very good. Low carry count, three carries, I think, and 3 tackles from your open side for me just wasn't good enough this week. Top tackler, 15 tackles, 5 or 6 carries and 4 turnovers. Now that is top tier test match open side play. And so you must have obviously watched last week's pod and gone, that was right.
Taking some notes.
He's taking some notes. No, he really pulled his socks up this week, didn't he? All jokes aside. And that shows, because I was calling for him to be dropped, right? And I thought, Tommy Raphael coming in, because we needed to win the game. But Jockey's shown some faith in him. And he's shown the level of professionalism that he's got in him, and his performance was much better. On the whole then, I thought Teddy Williams went well and Freddie Thomas went well in the second row. They were both in double digits for tackles and both 5 or 6 on the carry front as well. I think we can all agree that Wainwright was good. There's no doubt about that. His carry, and it's a shame really that we didn't get to see him play alongside Faletau, because I think that would have took us to the next level again. Because I like Alex Mann. I think he's industrious, but I don't think he's a test match 6 as yet. His carrying game's nowhere near as good enough as the likes of Wainwright. So for me, that's not quite working there. Dan Edwards, I thought again. I know there's going to be some conflicting reviews here, but I thought Dan Edwards controlled the game pretty well. I know you're going to say that defensively he was poor, and I think he missed 4 tackles according to the stats. which put him at the top of the list. For Wales, he missed 4 tackles. But in his defence of his defence, if you like, I think the system let him down. Wales play a very soft line. We get off the line for 2 or 3 steps, then we're sort of chopping our feet. We're not controlling our collision zone very well, I don't think. When you're lacking real physicality, like we seem to be at the moment, it's still the same people doing the same amount of work. I think we need the harder line. We need to get off the line, first 5 meters, shut that space down, be making tackles on or around the gain line rather than letting them come to us. And then you don't miss as many tackles, or if you do, you're missing them, well on the gain line, or even behind it. So, in their sort of half of the gain line. So that would be a talking point for me as well on there. But on the whole, we won. The history books will say that we won. The reality is no one will remember how poor or crap Hardy was, or whether we dropped the ball over the line, whether he got charged down, or how good Dan Edwards was. The history books will say that we've won a test match. And now I think we can kick on and win the first 2 of the autumn series coming up as well, because I think we play Argentina and Japan first.
We do.
And our personnel will be better again, because people have been saying, Wales have only got 2 on the Lions, but we have got people to come back into this squad as well. As we know, Henry Thomas rested, Adam Beard rested, Jake Ball's back in the country now. Can he get back to the sort of form that we saw him in previously? Faletau was injured, he'll be back. Thomas Williams will be back. Grady, Llewellyn, all these people back in the squad. So come on, boys. We're going to win the Grand Slam.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about set piece and stuff in a second. But if you have got any questions or comments that you would like, so say I can do this now. I've been watching. This is what the kids do when they do YouTube stuff. They go, "Hey guys, put it below. Yeah, stick your comments down below here like this." So the problem is I'm at the top of the screen, so it doesn't really work. So Harley or Dan, you've got to start doing this and go put your comments in below. So
do you want a couple of comments now, Lee?
Well, I was just looking at one from Greg. Evening, Greg.
Yeah.
We were a bit slow in making substitutions in both tests, possibly too emotionally involved, but he's really enjoying the pod. If you want to listen back, Greg, it'll be out tomorrow normally and what have you. So, yeah, I think we probably hinted on that last week about, and it's always going to be a problem for a Welsh coach that goes up to senior level. I can't remember the last time a Welsh coach went up to senior level and didn't have baggage from the club, the region, all of those things. I think that's why Gatland and any New Zealand coach to a certain extent comes in with a clean slate, with no baggage, with that freedom to just make decisions and go, well, no, he's out, he doesn't fit my game plan, he's in, and that. So yeah, maybe it is it's a poison chalice for Sherratt. What I will say about Sherratt at the end, I really felt for the guy, because you say it's one of the biggest victories, Dan, and you watch Matt Sherratt at the end. That wasn't a face of victory. That was a face of relief. That was a face of, oh my God, it's over. Do you know what I mean? So I really feel for the guy, and you know yourself, Dan, as a coach, sometimes you get to the end of the game and you're sweating and as tired as the players are. But when that little flick went out the back from Plumtree, and when he went over and then they showed him in the commentary box, then it was like watching somebody in the crowd. It was like watching somebody that way. So it was good to watch from that. I don't think you get that from a non-Welsh coach. If you know that level of passion, that level of commitment to the game. I don't think we can question his commitment to the game. And I don't think he's Welsh, is he? He's English.
Half and half. He's Welsh.
He's adopted. We've adopted him as a Welshman. Whether he likes it or not, we've adopted him as a Welshman.
No, we've adopted him as a Cardiffian. You guys are borrowing him. I just want to pick up on the thing with the substitutions, particularly because there was a follow-up comment from Connor talking about like Hardy needed to be replaced. But I think the problem is with Josh Adams getting injured in that first half, Jockey had to keep Ruben Morgan-Williams back until there was the injury to Johnny Williams because of that thing, and that's one of the that's where the 6-2 bench falls down. Unfortunately, is if you do get an injury out of the plan, it went a bit wrong. I actually thought Jockey's substitutions for the most part were a lot better this week. And it's something that we've talked about in the Cardiff pod and I brought up last week is I still think he's getting used to when to bring these subs on, but as I said, he gets better with each time. But
I just to add to that, I kind of agree with what Greg and Connor are saying. I think in that he should. There's no doubt about it. The game improved when Ruben Morgan Williams come on, but I take your point that it's a risk bringing him on at that stage because if he does come on, we end up going down to when we thought he should have, we end up down to 14 for the last period of the game where where Williams had to go off. I also think as well the fact that it was Coleman's first cap and Archie Griffin was going okay, especially at scrum time, played a factor into that because as much as Coleman's in the squad on merit and Adam Jones likes the way he scrummaged and through the video that he's watched and so on and so forth, it's still unknown. The last thing you'd want is to swap your tight head when Archie hadn't been doing much wrong and for Coleman to stick the reverse lights on straight away. And for us to concede scrum penalty, which ends up turning into territory gain for Japan and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's tough in it being in the coach's box when to do it. We got over the line.
I think the point Harley made last week about Belcher not getting much of a chance. I wasn't sure about that point, but I thought he did well when he came on Saturday, and he had longer, didn't he? I think he had 20 minutes.
I think it was close to a half hour.
And in fairness to him, 90% of the time he hit his man the line out, and he seemed to be a calming influence. Sometimes it's not the big plays. I think they were going to kick off a long caterpillar ruck, and you could see him sending somebody back, get back. It's just that experience he brought onto the pitch, and that was that crucial sort of 65 to 75 minutes where it was 2-point game. And I think he had a good influence and was part of the reason why we just for once managed to turn a close game into a win.
The key bit was those last kind of 20 minutes where last week it did go a little bit pants. Players are out on their feet. We kind of lost direction and what have you. So, McLeod stayed on for 75 minutes and was running on fumes by the end, but was still turning the ball over. You then had Plumtree came on. So this is what I was saying to you guys before, where Plumtree is very much an edge player in a referee kind of sense. The first thing he did, he comes off I think he came on and it was a line out. Off the back of the line out, Leach has the ball and he sticks one in his ribs and he puts Leach on the floor and he's blowing. Yeah. And you could just kind of see in his eyes, he's going like, I've been on the pitch for 60 minutes and I'm done. Off the back of the next ruck, Plumtree's right up in the face of their number 8, and it's a grapple and he's back and he's on the floor. And you can see sometimes, Stan, you might even coach it. If you can take that player to floor and move your shoulder onto his rib cage as you hit the floor, and you wind him a little again, and you could see that their number 8 didn't want to get up. He was on his knees a little, and he was a little bit kind of, I'm not fancy. That's 2 of their back row threats taken out by a fresh player coming on. And we were talking last week about that aggression, that determination, and he's got away with both of them. Yeah, he's got away with both of them. He's flattened 2 of their back row and got away with a couple of cheap shots and kind of started to move their back row away from it. Leach didn't want to know the ball after that. Every ball Leach had after that was either a straight pass or a standing ruck and all of this kind of stuff. So, there's a lot to be said for that level of aggression being on the pitch. I know there's penalties. I know the penalty thing will be popping up and all of that. But we were talking last week about aggression and determination and go forward. When he was taking that ball, he was taking it flat, albeit, Morgan Williams came on pretty much the same time or shortly after him. So every time he took the ball after that, he was going forward at a rate of knots. He's not a small bloke. He's 6'5", 18 stone, I think. So when he's coming at you, full pelt, and he's got the eyes up. I think it just made a massive difference. It took some of the pressure off the likes of which second row came off and who stayed on. Was Freddie Thomas on the whole game?
No, Freddie
Or
Thomas
was-
came off and then Ratty came on.
Ratty came on.
Ratty came on, yeah.
So Teddy Williams was kind of like doing a lot of the ball carrying, and it took pressure off him, and it just kind of gave us that step up. Where last week subs came on, and we kind of went back into our shell a little. So I think, and I might be wrong on this, but I think he had 7 line-out takes as well, which was the highest. He was the best line-out forward, but he was only on the pitch for 30 minutes. So, fair play to the guy. It shows that sometimes, he's been dropped. He's been dropped from the whole squad. He's not just been dropped from the team. He's been dropped from the squad. He's been told, go away, work on your discipline or whatever it is. You can, and you can come back. So we talk the likes about Hardy, where Hardy's had a bad game, and it's probably his last game for Wales. It may be, but actually you can come back from these things, and you can make that difference. And Plumtree, I thought, was excellent when he came on. More than anything, he seemed to have a connection with Ruben Morgan-Williams, where they were both looking at the same player. They were both, I'll take his inside shoulder, you take his outside shoulder. One of us is going to have the ball, whichever way he goes. There was just that kind of knowledge with them. So I really enjoyed that bit of it. So let's talk a little bit about some of the technical stuff, which things like scrums, lineouts, and defence. So we spoke a lot about defence last week and on the chat group, Dan. So let's talk about scrums and lineouts first. And we've kind of done the kicking bit, but do we think that we've got a scrum and a lineout at the minute that can compete where we should be, which is like top 5, top 6 in the world? That's where we should be. Have we got a scrum and a lineout that can compete at that level based on what we've seen for the last 2 weeks? So, Nick, you get first crack on that one, mate.
It depends who we pick, doesn't it? And the problem is, we think we talked about is I think I said last week, I think Plumtee's a good line-out forward, but we don't seem to have the players who can offer 3 or 4 things. Plumtree, as is definitely a really good line-out player. You can bring Beard back in, and that would shore up the line-out for sure. Line-out attack, line-out defence. Doesn't give you carry, go forward. He's a good ball hunter. So it's a difficult one. Dav Jenkins, would he make a difference? I think the biggest concern is our scrum. I think that the better teams, great though some of those little Japanese props, they're not world beaters, are they? And I wouldn't back our scrum against New Zealand or South Africa or even England, if I'm honest with you. So those are definitely work-ons, some for the new coach to consider. Yeah, so technically, line out could be better, especially if you pick the right people, but then do you lose other things in other games, parts of the game? I thought Gareth Thomas had a good impact when he came on as well. I think he made 11 tackles in less than a half. He offers that. He's not an outstanding scrummager, but like him and Nicky are solid in the front row. Yeah, there's a lot of work still to be done on the basics.
Right. So, Dan, you get defence. Harley's going to get the backs and attack, obviously, because it's his natural gifted. I'm going to give you the breakdown, Harley. But Dan, talk to me about defence. Where, like we were saying last week, we kind of set the pen around the 12, so we kind of pushed up on 13 and allowed them to run into that almost pocket. This week, it was a little bit more aggressive, but still not aggressive enough, I felt. What about you?
No, well, if you look at Edwards' stats, for example, he made 11 and missed 4. So a 10 is making or attempted to make 15 tackles in a game. Now, personally, and they won't be far from this sort of system, but I think you got to go with a real heavy line speed, like a hammer style defense, in my opinion. That's where I like and test people's skill set. You always have A and B close to the ruck, A managing the pick and go, and the nine scoot. B managing the nine scoot as well, and anything played back inside off 10. You always have C opposite the first receiver. So even if they're playing off 10 and you know the ball's going to 10, there's no inside threat. C's always stood opposite the first receiver, and where possible, you want to get some big area-asked back rower in there to go and get off the line and challenge his skill set. Because if someone doesn't run a line properly, or there's no threat out the back, or he's got to step back inside, all of a sudden that ball player, take Dan Edwards, all of a sudden Dan Edwards is having to step back into our back row / second row. He's going to soon going to start getting fed up with that, play deeper, kick a little bit more, and so on and so forth. And then, I still think then that we should be having a hard line off sort of 13, spooking them back inside to our tackle, threats. Faletau, Man on the weekend, Wainwright, all of these boys who can bang a little bit. But it's much easier to make a tackle and make a dominant tackle if you get off the line and you're making it well into the collision zone, and you're not letting big forwards and centres or wingers out wide having a run at you and letting them challenge. I just felt at the minute teams are challenging our defence rather than our defence challenging their attack. And that needs to change. You'll miss plenty of tackles running a blitz or hammer defense. You will, because you're rushing up out the line. People will find a weak shoulder or you're bouncing off people, but I just think you've got to make more of an effort to get into that collision zone and dominate a few tackles, because at this level of rugby, after 3 or 4 phases, if you shut it down, everyone wants a 4-phase shutdown. If you get a 4-phase shutdown, they're kicking you the ball back. And then it's going to the likes of Blair Murray, who in broken play is lethal. So that's the sort of thing we need to be playing towards, in my opinion. And we're not doing that at the minute. It's very soft. We sit off and we drift. And I don't think that's suiting us.
Well, we've got a question about Blair Murray that we'll come to in a minute. But Harley, we're talking about aggression and competitiveness in the back line. So talk to me about competitiveness in rucks and general broken play. There was a lot of times there where I felt we could have been more competitive, we could have been more aggressive, and we could have not delivered a couple of cheap shots, but we could have set our standards a bit higher, if that makes sense. So what did you make of the breakdown?
I actually thought we played it quite well, knowing the sort of ref Luke Pearce is. He's very much a pro-attack ref, so unless it's an absolutely clear opportunity, he doesn't really want a competition on the ball. So actually not sticking your hands in every ruck, you're not getting on the wrong side of him, you're not getting penalised, so you're waiting for those really clear Josh McLeod. The Alex Man got a decent one off the floor as well. I thought that was actually quite good temper to the ref. Yeah, we could probably be a bit more aggressive with things like counter ruck, but given how passive our defence seems to be more of a numbers on feet defence. I mean, and I agree with Dan, it is probably a bit too soft. But if you're fanning the field, you don't want to be losing bodies in rucks. I still think sometimes our attacking breakdown is a little bit too weak and open. Some of the turnovers we did concede are often players almost whole stepping off the ruck, and waiting for the ball to be played. Whereas maybe that what you really need is some just smashing the securer to make sure that we can get clean and quick ball.
Can I just add something to that, because I agree with you there, and I think our rucks and attack are poor. Now, if you're playing 1-3-3-1, right, and you're trucking up, you're going to play to a tradition in a 1-3-3-1. You're going to play like I don't want to see my hands here, but you're going to play like a Jack Queen King, right, with an ace in the hole. Ace in the back is normally a ball player. Now, if the ball's going, it's all then about knowing your role when you're in that formation. So if the ball's being played to the middleman, Queen, so if Queen's having the ball as that middleman and they're taking contact, number one, they want to run into an outside seam so they can get a weak shoulder. You always want to attack that outside seam because teams want to play traditionally side to side to stretch defenses. So if you run in an outside seam, You then got to know your roles as the jack and the king. So the inside man's job has always got to be on ball. You need to get on ball. Your only job is to secure that ball. So you know once the ball, whether you've tipped on to queen or the ball's gone straight from 9 or 10 to queen, you know you're going straight on ball. It's the only job you got. Forget about anything else, just secure the ball. And then king, as the outside man, has got two options. He can either boost or spike. So you're either boosting the ball carrier because you want to create an overload. So you've then got a 2v1 in the carry, so you get more of a gain line. It's easier for your inside man then to seal the ball, or you're spiking or tackling the tackler. So you're taking another man out of the game. So if you put the tackler on the floor, that means you then outnumber them in defence because if you've won a gain line, you've got more people on site than they have. And if you've taken someone out of the game, then they got a man on the floor and you've got more men on feet. So it's just about knowing your roles. But I think maybe when you get a bit tired in that heat and so on and so forth, things get a little bit lost. But if you understand the system and you know your roles in a 1-3-3-1, it's really easy to retain the ball and look how good Ireland are at it.
Yeah,
See,
absolutely. I think that's
this,
one
this
thing we missed David Jenkins for because I do think he's probably one of the best ruck cleaners we've got available to
Yeah,
us at the
I'm
moment.
sorry to cut in then, but I thought you
No,
were
no,
right.
it's really
Yeah.
good.
See, this is where I love listening to Dan, and Dan talks about stuff in a technical way, and after about 5 minutes, I go, "Thank Christ, I retired." Because I need a whole presentation. I need a 10-slide presentation with a little book with pictures in and saying, right, this is the queen and this is the jack and this is the ace. Because in my day, you got off the line quickly and you hit whoever was closest to you. And if he had the ball, cracking, that's a bonus. And if he didn't, just make sure he was down on the floor and it made the penalty worthwhile. So yeah, very, very different, very technical nowadays, Dan.
As we
So
said, games
yeah,
moved on, Lee.
I still like the idea of somebody coming up and just leveling the opposite number, putting them on the floor and saying, hello, I'm in the game. I think there's a lot to be said for that nowadays. Um, Not that I'd condone it because I've done my referee's course. So yeah. So question from Greg, or comment and question from Greg, who's a big Blair Murray fan, wants to know, is he better on the wing or at fullback? Either way, he's going to be targeted for high balls, and he's only a wee little chap. But then, so was Shane Williams. The theory was with Shane Williams that he was too small to play on the wing, so we'll put him in at scrum half, and then he got moved back to the wing when the winger went down injured. And the rest is history, as they say. So, Blair Murray, fullback, wing, does it make any difference?
Full back for me.
Same.
Yeah.
And me, because he's got a very good left foot as well.
Yeah,
And that's the
exactly.
difference perhaps to Shane. He's got the same skill set in many ways as Shane, but he can kick really well.
Yeah, he's
So
all caught.
I said I do like one of the things I quite liked about this game when Japan kicked loosely to him. He was running it up, but you could see he was always scanning. That's and then he got his 50-22 off. Running it back, seeing that there was a load of space in that backfield, kicked it off. Another time he ran, made a break, he's fed Adams a couple of. And I think that's something you can do at fullback a bit better than you can from the wing. I know with a sort of pendulum. Although Wales's pendulum was really weird going back to defence because Ben Thomas seemed to be coming into the cover position a lot, dropping out. Where normally the 10 drops out, Ben Thomas was doing that a lot, and he was making a lot of last-ditch tackles. I noticed, particularly in the first half.
Dan Edwards
And
ended up on the wing about 4 times in defence.
yeah, it said.
they
I
try and
think
hide
I
him
said I think that system's not. I don't know if they've tried changing system from the foreshore defence to the men defence, and a few people have got confused there.
But you just go 13 and 2, don't you? In a simple 13 and 2, kicker stays. With generally a +1, and that +1 could be your scrum half, or you'd have you might have a policy to stick someone like a Rogers back there. They probably stick Ben Thomas back there to give another kicking option maybe as well. So, for example, whoever puts the ball up in the air, he'll stay. Or nowadays, mind as well, if everyone's in front of him, he's got to get up and get people onside. So he'd have to drop someone back who's comfortable playing in that position, a la Ben Thomas in this case, who's a kicking option, good ball skills to be able to field the ball and so on and so forth. But generally, no, they just go 13 and 2.
I say it's quite often that sort of pendulum thing where you end up with one coming out, but you know,
Well,
the open side goes up. But
Mm.
I said it was a bit higher in the camera, unless you've got a nice camera off the backfield. It's sometimes hard to see that out. But
this is why I like the camera shots from behind the post. Camera shots from behind the post, you can actually see the formation of. You almost need a screen where you can permanently see like the whole picture. You know, like you used to have on like video games. You'd be playing the whole, but then you'd have like the little screen where the whole pitch would be up the top there. Having that on a TV monitor and being able to flick between the two would be good for me. I would like that. If anyone from the URC is listening or from Premier Sports, you're welcome to that. I won't even charge you commission for taking my idea, but if you want to do that, that'd be cracking. That would. So yeah, I just want to have a quick chat about the backs, mainly about the centres, and finding a centre partnership. We've had a couple of questions about centres, but I was going to put my thing in about Dan Edwards, and it's not a criticism of Dan Edwards. Yeah, it's almost a criticism of the press and the reaction, almost to social media again, to Costello the week before, who actually had a very similar game to Dan Edwards. Yeah, with the exception of a kick going over. It was a very similar game. There were good bits, there were bad bits. The difference for Dan Edwards, for me, was in defence. There were a couple of errors in attack where crossfield kicks were too hard, went into touch, so we lost possession. There was a couple of decisions where a more mature player, so in 3-4 years' time or whatever, if he's still there, where he's got a 4-on-2 or a 4-on-3 outside him, and he kicks to the corner, they catch it and they hoof it back down the field and stuff. And that will come with maturity and with time. The bit for me was defence, where if you're going to put it's a bit like Prendergast with Ireland now. Everybody knows he's a target. He's set himself up as a target at 10, and you run at him because he's not interested in tackling. And I think I saw Dan Edwards falling off 3 or 4 tackles. In the second half, what we did was we moved McLeod out, and we put McLeod permanently on his shoulder in the 10 channel. The one time McLeod wasn't there, they went straight through him, scored a try. So we'd obviously seen that was happening. That's where I think we started to move him, like you were saying, Nick. We were trying to hide him on the wing. Let's push him out to the wing and let's get him out the way and hope that they didn't notice, so they still ran down that channel. If we're going to level criticism at like Costello and people like that, then we've got to be honest and say, look, there's a lot of work-ons there to do as well. For me, it wasn't a man of the match performance. For me, the bits that I look at, and I used to be a coach, I used to be a referee, so you look at certain things and you look at how he's sitting when he's going forward with the ball in hand. Lovely, great, not a problem. He's got pace, he's got vision, but lots of other 9s, lots of other 10s do as well. Some of his kicking was absolutely superb, but he was shorter than what I usually expect him to be. So was Costello, and I'm wondering, well, is that halfpenny saying, make sure it goes into touch and whatever? Then you see Plumtree pick the ball up from behind his own line and stick it back out on the halfway line, and you think, okay, there's nothing wrong with the air, there's nothing wrong with the ball because Plumtree's just hoofed it 50 meters. So I felt maybe that was a halfpenny thing or whatever. So that was what I was saying about Dan Edwards, where for me that wasn't a man of the match performance. It was adequate, but there was a lot of work-ons there. And I think one of the things we're really bad at doing in Wales is we'll take somebody and we try to build confidence, but instead of building confidence bit by bit by bit, we go straight up to the top of the mountain. And when you're right up the top of the mountain, the only place you can come from the top of the mountain is down the other side. So instead of going right, let's take him to base camp and let's go up a little and let's go up and let's genuinely build confidence, we go whoosh right the way up. So yeah, there was some lovely touches that he had, but for the last 15 minutes, touched the ball once, and that's when he took the ball over the line. So we for that last 15 minutes when we were controlling the game, when we were dominating the game in those last 15 minutes, he wasn't part of that game plan. He took that ball outside Tom Rogers in those last 15 minutes. And I know we were chopping and changing people around and moving people and what have you. So I'm just saying, no, it's not criticism. It's about us as fans to kind of keep it on a level of reality and actually look at what's there. I know certain commentators and certain news outlets will like certain types of players, and they'll say he had a fantastic game and he was on a 9, and the rest of us are going, how did he even get above a 6? So we know that happens. What I'm saying is for me, it was a decent game. It wasn't a man of the match thing. So that's what Dan was alluding to earlier about opinion. I took up a fair bit of Saturday, to be fair, Dan. Our conversations about Dan Edwards on that. So, right, I just want a quick two-liner from each of you on how do we'll talk about the changes going forward now. We'll talk about, we've got a lot of players to come back in. Where does this tour leave us now in terms of, are we in a better position? Are we no further forward? Where are we? So we'll go round the room. We'll start with you, Nick, then you, Harley, then you, Dan. How do you view the tour? Has it been worthwhile? What do we get out of it?
Yeah, it's been worthwhile because we won a game. And if no other reason, it has to be that. There's lots wrong with the game, our game, lots of things to work on. And ultimately it's for the new coach, isn't it, when they eventually announce him, and who their backup coaches are as well. So is the defence going to be more aggressive? Are we going to be able to improve or have more consistency in the line out? You know, so it's just taking the monkey off the back. Yes, it was the right tour. It was difficult conditions in both games with the humidity. Obviously, the sun wasn't an issue on Saturday, but very, very difficult. I would think I'd be quite confident. I'll stick my name. I think we'll beat them quite comprehensively in Cardiff in November. Whoever's playing. So yes, we've won a game, so it's definitely worth going. And at least the new coach can put their blueprint forward and hopefully win a few more games in the next season.
Harley, overview of the tour.
It's almost job done. We didn't quite get the goal. The goal's to win both games. We won one. The important thing now is it's almost a blank slate for the new coach, whomever it'll be. And I'd just like to wish Mark Jones and Dwayne Kill all their success as Wales coaches.
Right. Okay. Dan, lots of players to come back in for autumn internationals, but what did you make of that tour?
Yeah, and the troops are saying that in the comments as well. We got people to come back in, and I totally agree with that. I think that what Sherrod has done here and the boys have done here is given the coach coming in, this is the best thing for him, that whoever comes in as the next head coach now, he's got a clean slate to work with, whoever it is. That was, for me, that was the best possible outcome. Best possible outcome would have been 2 test wins, but we've got the monkey off our back, And you look back again at the first test, having won on the weekend. Now you look back at the first test, guys, one that got away. But it gives everyone a clean slate now going into the autumn, and I genuinely think we can target 2 wins. The big thing for me, as we talked about, really with the depth, is that the people come in, taking a sort of tactical periodization stance on the way that we're going to play the game. And for those people that are not, sort of up to date on what that term is, it comes from football, basically. Tactical periodization is, you can only play with the players that you've got. So you need to take stock of what our playing pool is, look at their strengths, and then play to their strengths. So if you're a coach, because we all know coaches, when they come in, like jockeys come in, he's got a certain way he wants to play the game. And I don't know whether that always suited Wales, because um, it suited us when we played Ireland at home, and we sort of caught them a little bit cold, throwing the ball around, but then we got shut down quickly. So come in and play to the boys' strengths, play to what we've got, whatever that may be. Take stock of what we've actually got, because we have got some good players there. We really, really have. And it's something for us to build on. So yeah, I'm excited to see who comes in now, and I hope it's a positive. I hope it's a positive appointment, and not one that we all go, oh, why's that happened? I hope it's a positive appointment. I think we need a little bit of, for me personally, I think we need an old school coach to come in, grab it by the scruff of the neck, whoever that may be. Personally, I'd go and pay the French Rugby Union whatever they want to release Shaun Edwards out of a contract. Go and get him, give him a role as head coach, because I think what we need as well is standards. And I think someone with a mentality of Shaun Edwards will go, I don't care how you're international rugby players now. The standards are you, not down there. We got standards. Like McLeod, week one, standards are down there. This week, they're up there. They got to be up there every week. Every time you take the field playing for Wales, your standards got to be 10 out of 10. And I think it'll take someone like a Shaun type of character to drag that out of everyone in a minute. But it was definitely a positive talk, because we've won and we're on the up.
I just want to add on something on to Dan's point there with the coach, and what I think, as well as sorting out how he wants Wales to play. I think it's going to be very important to echoing what Jockey said in his interview, that these coaches actually go into the region and say, this is what we want to sort of play. Not necessarily saying like have all four sides carbon copies of each other, but sort of say, this is the defensive system I want to use. This is the sort of line-out calling system. And at least go into the region and say, right, what works really well for you guys? Let's bring that in, so that when players are making that step up, they're not spending so much time learning everything. They can focus on training, running the moves, and getting things better.
And I think that's a key bit as well. Is Sherritt's coming in the middle of a Six Nations. People, chins are on the floor. How do you try and change? You've got to try and change something. What do you try and change? Then he thought he wasn't going to be in place for the summer tour, and then it was actually, we can't get anybody in time. So it's not really been fair on him, which we spoke about at the time, and we spoke about keeping hold of Shaun Edwards years and years and years ago, that this is the natural progression. He should have been the takeover from Gatland. But hindsight is a wonderful thing. Right, we will move on. We're going to park Wales, Japan there, and we're going to move on to today's announcement from the WRU and the future. So to give everybody an idea, I sent a message out to the boys this morning saying, right, here's what we'll talk about tonight. We'll probably focus on that Japan game and do some of the technical bits. And then we'll have a little chat about, where that leaves us going forward, and what we've got to look forward to in the Autumn Nations series and things like that. We'll have a little 5-10 minutes about that. And then about halfway through the under-20s game, that changed quite dramatically, and my WhatsApp group, I don't know about you guys, but my phone, my WhatsApp just went ping, 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 ping. It was going nuts. But before we get onto that, I just want to give people a bit of an update on where we are doing pod stuff. So we've been speaking a while about doing the Irish podcast. So if you want to hear basically rap only for Irish teams, that is launching tomorrow morning. The boys have just recorded. They just finished recording on that. So that'll be good. Some familiar names on that as well. We are in the process of putting a South African pod together. We've got quite a few people interested in doing that. But as you probably appreciate, South Africa is a big place and they've got lots of supporters all around the world. So connecting people on that one is taking a bit longer, but we will have a South African pod doing exactly the same as what WRRAP does, just in South Africa. and Dan won't be around to do impressions of South African coaches, thankfully.
Oh.
I've been looking forward to that.
Yeah.
It is a brilliant Razzie.
I'll work on it right for next week.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then finally on this point, we are still looking for a Scarlet's presenter to take over from me. So this is my last one tonight. So if you fancy it, drop us a line, because I would love to have a Scarlet's view on here. If not, the guys will just carry on until somebody puts their hands up and goes, "Hey, I'm up for that." So that's us going forward. If you are liking what you're seeing and what you're hearing, please do give us a like and a share on our social media and on our YouTube channel. Please do give us a subscribe. I could talk you through all of the whys and the wherefores on what that does to the algorithm. But what it means is you're really, really important as a person. When you subscribe to us, you send YouTube a message that says, "I like this," and all the other people that are like me will like it as well. So you're really, really important. You don't know the influence you are having until you subscribe. So yes, a big thank you to everyone that has subscribed so far on that. Okay, have we got a couple of questions before we move on? I think it's just comments and comments, and lots of people having chats together, which is fantastic. Thank you for that, guys. And yeah, Sean Edwards, yeah, thank you for that, Richie. Fantastic. Yeah, all stuff that we've covered, but please do keep commenting below as we do this next section, because I mean, we do this every week. We sit down and we talk rugby every week, and the WRU has never failed once in the last 3 years that we've been doing this to give us something to talk about. So today they sent out an announcement, like I say, halfway through the under-20s game. Have you got it there, Harley? Do you wanna
I have
read
it
it
up.
out, mate?
Do we really have to read it all out, or can we just send people to read it because it's really
Give us, yeah, but this is where we get to that bit where we go, we don't read it, we don't do our own research, and then we let other people tell us what's in there, and then they pick out bits that they want us to read. So yeah, let's read the statement. Go on.
Right. So this statement goes as thus, as published at 3 p.m. this afternoon. The Welsh Rugby Union is entering into formal consultation with Wales's 4 regional clubs and other key stakeholders, which will lead to a restructure in the domestic professional game by season 2027-28. It was announced today. Someone needs to work on fragmenting these sentences. The consultation period will take place over August and September, with the regional clubs and players being the primary stakeholder groups to contribute, but a comprehensive engagement programme will ensure all representative groups of the game in Wales have the opportunity to contribute. Consultation will cover the entire high performance framework from pathways to professional club structure and the senior men's and women's game. The WRU board has already publicly confirmed it does not see the system continuing with the current model of 4 equally funded regional clubs in the senior men's game. The current rugby system in Wales, which includes national teams, professional clubs, community clubs, academies, universities and schools, isn't delivering consistent success on the field and isn't currently financially sustainable, given the likely investment required, even with the recent actions taken to increase financial resources. Based on its extensive work over the past 18 months, including ongoing consultation with the 4 professional men's clubs, the WRU is therefore considering a more radical strategy focused on maximising investment and reforming the whole structure of professional rugby in Wales, amongst other options. The changes will be aimed at boosting Welsh rugby as a whole, the academies, Super Rugby Cymru and Celtic Cap Challenge competitions, the men's and women's semi-pro game, professional clubs and the national teams for both men and women. In order to change to be made, we'll be conducting a comprehensive and transparent consultation process with our key stakeholders. The input and feedback gathered from the consultation process will be valuable. And then the separate section now, key potential developments to be consulted on will include further investment into the SRC and strengthening the semi-pro game, significant investment into player development and pathways, a national centre providing a place of development for all our elite players, coaches, and support staff, the best rugby leadership and decision-making model for the whole of the professional game in Wales, whether there should be a reduction to 2 or 3 regional men's teams to ensure that we have teams that can compete at the top of the professional game, our professional sides being home to both our men's and women's teams. The funding model to underpin success, to ensure that the new model is financially sustainable and that teams are long-term investable propositions partnership with the WRU. The WRU is seeking to introduce changes in this way because of the current status of its senior men's professional game, acknowledging that Welsh Rugby has experienced a deterioration in performance on and off the field, and statistically has just had its worst season ever in its senior men's game. All stakeholders want Welsh Rugby to be successful in all levels of the game. Stakeholders understandably have different perspectives and must prioritise their own interests by default. Solutions have not yet emerged through consensus, and then they just give a rough timetable, which is in August, the WRU board will approve the strategy for the consultation and commencement of the formal consultation period. And then in September, we'll have the consultation and engagement process. And then in October, the WRU will approve whatever strategy and confirm whatever's happening to all stakeholders involved. And to answer Zach on the thing, no, I don't have a ChatGPT summary. The summary is basically we don't know what we're doing, and we're basically just leaving everything on the table still.
Can I just say, well done, Harley. That was beautifully read, and you can move on to key stage 2. Well done.
Thank you. I mean, it's a bit late for that, having gone to, I think it's stage 6 when you get to PhD level.
But you can, it's a complicated, it's a long-winded, complicated, detailed statement that people try to break down into a 3-word headline. And it isn't that simple. It isn't as simple as going, this is what's going to happen, end of. Normally, when we have consultations, it's because we have, here's an idea that we want to put in, but we want to make sure that we kind of listen to everyone along the way, and we might put a couple of tweaks. This is a bit bigger than that. So, Dan, you were saying earlier that, this might actually be a good thing in terms of the women's game, the under-20s game, SRC, those kind of things.
Yeah, and I've been on Twitter over the last sort of hour, just dropping some replies in. I think that everyone, including myself, and everyone probably watching this, have been guilty of viewing this purely from a senior men's rugby, through a senior men's rugby lens. When you look at what they've written in there, they're on about, if we do drop down to 2 or 3 clubs, say, for example, we drop down to 3 clubs, then what the WRU want is for those 3 clubs to then have 3 female teams attached to that. So, which I'm assuming they want to be as professional as possible, even if they're not paid the same sums as money, they won't be paid the same sums of money as the men are. But ultimately, then you're looking at, if we go to 3, you're looking at the net gain in pro teams in Wales. From a rugby perspective, now we look at it through the men's game. We lose a pro team or region through the men's game, but ultimately we go from 4 to 6 because they'd be funding the female game, and I think that's been part of the change over the last few years as well. Is that you look at the female program now, we've got when all these changes happen, and let's assuming we go to three teams, for example. We'll have a senior female team, senior men's team. We'll have 3 pro regions men's. We'll have 3 pro regions or 3 regions, 3 pro teams, whatever you want to call them, female. We'll then have 20s men at regional level because they play rags. So you've got to have a pathway for the women as well. You can't just expect them to turn up and play rugby at senior level if they've not had the coaching or the same pathway development. So you're going to have to put all of that in place. So that means that you got female academy, male academy, all the way through the regional system, all the rag stuff, 16s, 18s, and 20s. I noticed that Wales women's under-20 spanked Scotland the other day by 50 odd, 20 odd. So those things are already in place. But this takes investment, doesn't it? so we've only got a finite amount of cash. So I think we need to look at this rather than just looking at it through a rugby lens, through a men's rugby lens. We need to look through it as this is, and I'm not saying what the WRU are doing is necessarily right at the moment. I'm open to discussion on that, but we need to look at it through a rugby lens, not just it concerning the men's game, it concerning everything from, in theory, tots rugby through under sevens all the way up, but that's both sides. That's male and female side of the game because, um, at the moment it's mixed. Kids coming through, I think it's mixed until under 12s, and then under 12s, the girls have got to split from the boys. Now, there's not that much infrastructure out there in terms of girls' rugby. So therefore, they're probably losing a lot of girls to other sports such as football and so on and so forth. So it's a tricky one, isn't it? When you're trying to improve the overall infrastructure, we've talked on here before, it's not just about having money for marquee players and better players and paying players more money. It's about having, the national development centres. It's about having better gym facilities, about having access to the best medical staff and the best S&C staff, the best nutrition, all of these things, the best education system, the best coaching. But that's now got to work both ways on the men's and the women's side of things. So reform is definitely coming, especially. I'll be really, really disappointed in the WRU
Say
if
stuff like that, Dan, I go, bloody hell, man.
I know I'd be really disappointed. I'd be really disappointed in the WRU if they go through all this reform, and they just touch upon the women's game. If they're going to go hard in on the women's game as well and try and drag us up to the same level as like England and the Black Ferns and Canada, great. If they waste this opportunity and it's affected the men's game and the female side of it, then I'll be really disappointed and I'll get down off my soapbox.
I just
I
just
think
wanna
that so hang on, Harley. I was just going to say that that's a disgracefully well balanced argument from Dan. This is not what Welsh rugby is about, mate. This people will be absolutely bricking themselves having a well balanced and considered argument. So, Harley, balance up the well considered and balanced argument with some rhetoric and some conversation about the 60s and the 70s.
You mean periods I wasn't alive, and when I've watched clips of the rugby back then, I thought it was pretty shit. No, you're right. I just want to add on just with the dancing with the women's team, like if you set up basically, if you say you close down one of the regions on say the 4.5 million budget and gave them 1.5 million each, that would be a bigger salary budget than any of the PWR sides. Because the top player in the PWR gets 25 grand and they only have 2 of those contracts. I think it might have gone up to 3. Like this is the little bit of money. This is the level of money in investment we need to get a Welsh pro club size up to that level. Obviously, it's not as simple as throwing money in it. You need to chuck, the time, the resources, and the good coaching, and not just give Ashley Beck every job in this country. I was saying that the ladies at the Women's Rugby Treehouse have been moaning about. So one of these things, it's good that they're going to tie women's teams to the club. I wonder if they are going to drop if they do decide to drop teams, if teams that have already embraced a women's side. So obviously with the Scarlets, they've really lent into Brithon and they've done an awful lot, shared a lot of social media resources. If that's something that pushes them up in their stead. But I mean, it's a bit annoying for those people who started building up and started to like Gwali and Brithon, and then all of a sudden they've gone, oh, we're folding them and we're expecting the men to run it for you, if they feel like it. And that kind of stung from that sort of side of things. I mean, it's always going to be horrible when you talk about closing a region, because we know exactly which region is going to feel most aggrieved by it, whether rightly or wrongly. And for me, I feel like I don't know if it'd be better off if we were going to go down to 2 or 3 professional teams, if the best thing to do would be to pick one to go or to just wipe it clean and start again. But I think either way, it's gonna be painful, and if it is the way we've got to go, I think the WU've got to make that decision early, and so we can just get on with it and just start. Because I think the longer you sort of drag these things out, the more painful it's going to be.
Well, they're looking at the 26-27 at the start of the 26-27 season for changes to come into effect, but they're going to announce it at the start of this season and in between the start of the season and the autumn internationals, which kind of confuses me. So,
Well,
Nick,
given the one Wales strategy, which we're still waiting for a full detailed plan of,
yeah, which has been
it
ripped up
probably
and
won't be
thrown in
until
the
the
bin.
28-29 season.
Yeah. So, Nick, I mean, you're probably feeling the pressure on this one the most for one reason, mainly because of crowd size, which we discussed pretty much all of last year, and the perception that that is your fan base, where we know it isn't, but that's the perception. So, I mean, how is this feeling for you? Where the I'm not going to say the good money because I don't want to see any of us go, but people are edging on. It's going to be the Ospreys that merge with the Scarlets because we're 10 miles apart and what have you. But how does that sit for you?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say it's definitely going to be the Scarlets because you can't even get a podcaster from your supporter fan base.
Nice one.
So, yeah, well, it does put into a big question mark for me, as I've been saying for a while, over the future of ground we play at and so on, because that's a concern. I think what we were trying to do about moving to St Helens and developing that, giving us our own ground, was a step in the right direction. And just generally now, just a couple of general points, not just about the Ospreys. When the announcement comes, let's say it's the end of October, Halloween seems like a good time to do it. Uh, it's going to be very, very difficult for any of those the club, one professional, the region, or two, whatever it may be, to attract players thereafter. Also, you're going to be losing players who, quite understandably, will want to try and secure their future for themselves and their families, and will probably want to be getting out of contracts early. So, and from my working experience as well, I've been involved in consultations, which ultimately it's a fair process and all the information is shared. But ultimately, there's going to be a committee, and in this case, the executive board, I think, in the Welsh Rugby, who will make a decision. So, while they might consider all the things that come in, all the process, and it's up for people to take part in if they can. But ultimately, they don't have to listen to anything. If they've got a set idea, let's just say it's two regional clubs, one based in Llanelli, the other one based in Cardiff. That's what they'll vote on, and that's what they'll bring in, because consultation is only that. It's not saying, oh, most people said we wanted four. Well, most people said we wanted three. Some people said we have one and one in North Wales as a development area with less funding. They will have an idea, and it's that group of people who ultimately will have the decision about where Welsh Rugby goes come October.
And I think half the problem is most of the people in that room making the decision are partly responsible for the situation that we're in, one way or another. It's leadership in the game, it's investment in marketing, it's bloody side fantasy stuff that had no effect on the game at all, that has drained us away, and we've slowly allowed ourselves to become a third tier rugby system, while people in the suits and blazers in the WRU work out whether they're going to get an OBE or a CBE or a knighthood, and that's what they're aiming for. So, Harley, before I start one of my rants, quite obviously, this is all the fault of Cardiff Rugby. And if you guys had done your background work properly and got a decent investor in, then we wouldn't have been in this situation. Discuss.
You mean the WRU's background work, as they were the ones who did all the financial backing of thing? I mean, you can go back. We can
Slope
give
your
this
shoulders on the
current
podcast,
regime a
is
lot
what I
of.
tell you now.
I said we can
I'll
give
say
this
it.
these current regimes a lot of stick, but I mean, previous WRU regimes laid foundations for everything to turn the shit. Whether that was getting rid of the National Academy, when we were making up, when Welsh rugby was very profitable, they weren't investing in, in the future generations of the game. Whether it's letting one coach have too much power over which players he wanted, and then he kept them, and there was very little rotation and development, even though, the obsession with making sure we played the big side, so there was never really an opportunity to try out that second, third layer to try and promote people up. I said, yeah, Cardiff. I mean, obviously Cardiff going under was the spanner in the works of the PRA, but by the sounds of it, it looks like that PRA would have come to shit anyway. The way the murmurings of the WRU. So it just goes back to the whole thing of the last few seasons of, is anything you sign with the WRU worth the paper it's written on? Because we've had 3 or 4 different agreements signed in 3 or 4 different years. And again, that does come that that is something you can pin firmly on this regime.
And when one of the options that they're looking for in that statement that you just read was excellent leadership and looking after the game, and you're like, well, that's your job. That's what you should have been doing for the last God knows how long. What have you been doing? If this isn't the best, if this is not the best management system for Welsh rugby, then get out of the way. Get out and let somebody come in that will actually do a job. Because I've been involved in this game. Well, I'm a year off 50, and I picked up the ball when I was 8. I've been involved in this game a long time, and at no point have I ever felt this low about the game. And we've got the same things going over and over and over and over, and I don't know. I can't put my finger on why it's all turned to shit so quickly. Maybe some listeners want to chip in with their ideas about where it's all gone wrong. But for me, we how have we let ourselves get to this place? How have we let ourselves one of the best rugby playing nations, one of the people that really took this game and made it into something exciting. Between us and New Zealand, we were the 2 leading sides that really took it to an international level and went, you know what, we can play exciting rugby that puts thousands of people in a stadium screaming for it every week. And we've lost it. And I don't get why. I don't understand why now we think getting rid of a region is going to suddenly make more people want to play the game. Getting rid of a region is going to make, I think somebody counted this morning, we've got potentially 12 centre partners, 12 centres, international level centres. How do you fit 12 international level centres into 3 clubs? Where at the minute we can't fit them into 4 because some of them are playing in the English Premiership because they weren't getting enough game time in Wales as it was. So getting rid of a club isn't going to make that any better because they're going to go, well, I'll just go over to England. The only people that getting rid of a region is going to benefit is footballers and the English Premiership. And yeah, people might not want to hear that that's who it's going to benefit, but that's who it's going to benefit. The English Premiership are going to mop up a whole load of our players and go, thank you very much, over here. And then we won't have them for international duty. We won't have them so often for development and monitoring. And then we're going to go, well, there's another player that's gone over the border. There's another player that's playing international rugby. Why aren't they playing for Wales? I just, I totally get the stuff that you were saying earlier, Dan, about how we need to invest in the women's game. And I totally get that. And I totally get our academy system is shockingly poor still. I was talking to some boys who are not in the academy system, but were in the under 18s system for the last couple of seasons. I was talking to them on the weekend. And our academies are like something from the 80s, Who's your dad? Who's he? Oh, I remember your dad. Yeah, you're in. You know, we haven't put into action all the stuff that we talk about. We talk a good game and we do something completely different off the field. And it winds me up something chronic that we've got to a stage where people are going to lose their livelihoods, you know, on or off the field, whichever way. We're going to lose livelihoods. People are going to lose a region. I can't see Nick, with all the best will in the world, I can't see you pulling on a Scarlet shirt and sitting in Parker Scarlet and going, yay. It's not going to happen. It's not. And and if it was the other way around, I'll be honest with you, if the Scarlets went and the Ospreys, Swansea was the centre of West Wales, I'd stick two fingers up to it and you wouldn't catch me there for love nor money. That's the way rugby works. That's how competitiveness works, So I said not to let me get on my soapbox, didn't I? I said, see, I've gone and started talking now.
I think what we need, though, Lee, is the WRU are really poor on transparency. All these like consultations and everything like that has been done, and they go like, for example, we've got a data that says it's going to be best for us to drop to 3 regions. The West Wales teams are going to merge, for example, and become one. We got a capital city side, and then the East Wales team will be the Dragons. Okay, that's what we're going to go with. This is what the data says. Well, show us the data, because the last thing, as far as I'm concerned, the WRU is run as it's run by a constitution. It's not, a private firm. It's run by the clubs. Everyone should have a say in it. It's an open, it's a democratic process, or it should be for everything that goes on. They understand that, the pro game is on a different level to the grassroots game and so on and so forth, and should be treated differently. And I agree with that. But let's have some transparency. Publish the data, publish the things, the consultations that you're having, because there's a lot, there's 40 or 50 people watching this pod now that they're rugby people. They're interested in it. Because how can we make informed decisions or provide informed opinions on whether you are going to go and watch, a West Walian team, a merged West Walian team next to you without seeing the data? You may have the data in front of you and go, well, actually, if we didn't merge, we wouldn't have a team in West Wales. They'd both be gone. So we've had no option. So therefore, I am going to get behind it. But without being able to have that evidence in front of you, it's really tough, isn't it? They need to be more transparent on the things that they're, giving and putting into the public domain, in my opinion, because I know all of you guys do, and probably all the people that are listening to the pod, you just want what's best for Welsh rugby. I think everyone wants that. My plea to everyone is, whatever happens in the next 12 months, you still got to go to games, you still got to buy shirts, you still got to watch the boys, you still got to go to the national games, because otherwise it'll die a death. After we are long gone on this planet, rugby will still be here. So we got to do our best to support it. But likewise, the people that are in the hot seat now have got to look after it and try and make sure it's in a better place for the next generation of people to take it to the next level again.
Yeah, can I just pick up on that point, Dan? Yeah, any other organization, a council, a school, for instance, they publish minutes. Obviously, they can be redacted, and certain things won't be included. Well, this is a major consultation that's taking place now about the future of our game in Wales. We, as the rugby public, should at least have the same ability to view that consultation, the findings. There'll be a report written, no doubt, about that consultation. So why can't we see it?
It's good. It's a good point, and I think everyone. And then the reality is, if people haven't bothered, it's a bit like, if you don't vote, you don't get an opinion. If you can't be bothered to read the information, then it's not out there. You can't moan and groan when things happen in your game and you haven't had a chance to influence it because you're not informed well enough. So, personally, I think they should be pumping as much genuine information out there and data and evidence as humanly possible between now and that date of October.
Yeah, and I just want to jump on that.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, publishing data, publishing actual information. Let's not just have it leaked to journalists who said, "Oh, this," because then, part of the reason Lee is very keen for us to read out these statements properly, so that you hear every single word, no matter how badly it's read out. So you hear that, and then you can make, whereas so others will just cherry pick things like that. You know, for example, the BBC Wales Today report instantly was talking about we're dropping 2 regions, and then they start going to talk about it's like, well, no, that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is they're open to it. It's not saying that's the preference, whatever. But I mean, the thing for me is it is just another report. It's another review. We had 3 reviews into sexism in the women's game, and nothing changed, and barely anything changed. Like, let's get these reports. Let's see what it says, the recommendations, and then a clear thing of how they're going to implement them. Because until that, I don't care. It's just yet more shit. I mean, I went into work today saying, "Do you know what? I'm happy. I can see green light at the end of the tunnel in Welsh Rugby. I should have known better." Clearly, the reason why
You
I didn't
naive
join scouts.
person.
What can I say? I did. You know, I was only a child during the 90s. I don't really remember it as a rugby thing. So I don't
It's
have
not a
the
bad thing.
reference.
Not remembering the 90s is not a bad thing, mate.
And that does go on to a point, I know, with some of the people are making in the comments, like Connor says now, you know, we've had a golden generation. You know, rugby is cyclical, everything's cyclical in life. I suppose you've only got to look at, likes of Man United in football now, you know, who were dominant in football for however long and now on a period of massive decline. You know, I suppose Welsh rugby was dominant in the 70s, 80s and the 90s. You know, we drifted off into obscurity in the 90s. We didn't take older professional rugby very well. When it came in 95, we floundered behind. And then from 2008 to 2019, we've done what? Let's not forget, mind, we got the 2 World Cup semi-finals, #1 in the world. We won what? 4, 5 Grand Slams. We won however many Six Nations titles on top of the Grand Slams. The Ospreys won 3 league titles in that period. The Scarlets won a league title, and Cardiff won, Cardiff won 2 Challenge Cups, and the Dragons have had the best kit every year. So, you know, we've in that period we have done well. You know, unfortunately, we haven't built on it. Someone's dropped the ball there, and we're trying to pick up those pieces now. But I don't think we can try and rinse and repeat what we did previously because the game's moved on so much. You know, Richard in the comments saying we had a centre of excellence back then. Yeah, we did have a national academy, and that national academy was based on the likes of, Alan Carter was big in that national academy as well. And Alan Carter's role was to go out and make sure that everyone was living as they should be and sorting out, you know, their stories whereby, he sorted out Jamie Roberts, making sure that he had a place in Cardiff University other than going off to university in England and so on and so forth. So we don't have an Alan Carter in post now or someone who's a bit of a fixer to go out and make sure that everyone's doing what they should be doing, looking after themselves, living like adults, you know. Putting them in universities and having those conversations with universities. Emmanuel Feiwa-Boso is a prime example. You know, why is he going to go to university in Exeter? Someone at WRU pick up the phone to someone in Cardiff University and go, I have a slot for Emmanuel Feiwa-Boso. By the way, he's probably going to be a Welsh international. Probably going to look really good for you that he attends your university. Yeah, no problem. We can sort that out. And the National Academy then was also backed up by other coaches going out to the players. So the players that were in that academy that were playing 18s and 20s rugby, you know, Jenks would go out and do kicking clinics with Lee Halfpenny and your Dan Biggers and so on and so forth. Physically go to them. And that's not happening now. But, you know, we need to make, I don't know whether that would even be doable nowadays or whether it would be as beneficial for the number of players that we would potentially require to make sure that we are, you know, building the depth that we need. But we need something, don't we, on a national level to make sure that we are harnessing this talent and giving it the best level of rugby education that it can get. And on that point as well, it also means that we've got to coach the coaches now. We got to invest in that. It's all well and good, you know, because I think having that period of success probably painted over that fact as well that, you know, what coaches did we bring through in the last decade?
Very few.
Very few.
Yeah. And the ones that did come through and were any good went off to England pretty much straight away. So.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw my couple of last bits in, and then we'll do a wrap up, gents, and say goodbye. So For me, I've got 2 points. First of all, we know that the WRU and we know that all of the regions listen to our pod, because the minute we step out of line and say something they don't like, I get an email the morning after and I get a little bit of a telling off. So I know you're listening. So if this is on in the WRU offices and this is on, somebody's listening back to it in a meeting to hear what the fans are saying, this is what I'm going to say to you. There's an opportunity here for you to come onto this pod at any time you want. I will record with you at any time, any place, and field the questions that fans want to ask. So we talk about stakeholders in the game. The biggest number of stakeholders are the fans. So yes, the players, the clubs, they're important. The press isn't that important, trust me, but the fans are. So my challenge to the WRU is to stop telling us what we can't do. Stop telling us that we're being naughty boys by pointing out what you're doing. Get your backsides on here and have a conversation with the fans, direct, one-to-one, face-to-face. We'll do a live pod like this if you want, and we'll have all the questions from the fans coming in and answer what the fans have to offer. You want to be transparent, come and be transparent. Put your person where your words are and come and talk to the fans. Come and listen to what people have got to say and come and understand why this game is important to us and why we want you to keep 4 regions. My second message is to fans of all 4 regions. Yeah, all 4. So I've said earlier, about competitiveness and would I go and sit in the Ospreys and cheer on the Ospreys? No, I wouldn't. Okay. But at the same time, I would never want the Ospreys to not be a side. I would never want any one of us to disappear. So for a period of time, we have to work together as fans to make our voices heard. We have to shout louder and stamp our feet longer and make ourselves heard. So it's a consultation, but they will only listen to you if you are part of that consultation. And if you're going to sit back and do nothing, then don't be surprised if what comes out at the other end is not what you want. There's a whole load of people on social media that will sit there and go, oh, I didn't like that. And oh, that was the wrong decision. And oh, I would have done stuff differently. Get your backsides in a place where they can make a difference and do it now. Don't wait till August, September. Don't wait till the announcement comes out in October and then turn around and go, oh, I disagreed with that. Make your voice heard now. We are custodians of this game. And whether it's an under-16 player on the back pitch that I can see over my back hedge, or whether it's the international team playing at the Millennium Stadium, nobody owns this game. We are custodians of this game, and we are a part of it for a very, very short period of time. And during that period of time, it is our duty to future generations to make that game better. So let's make it better. Let's make our voices heard. Let's stamp our feet. Let's shout where we've got to shout, and let's make people listen to us. Because if we drop to 3, you don't come back to 4. For some of us that remember being 5 regions, we aren't going back to 5, because when it's gone, and it doesn't come back. It's not a tire on a car. You can't just replace it and put it back in. It's a region of rugby, and this is down to us now to fight for what we want. And if we're not going to fight for it, we will lose it. And when it's gone, it's gone. So that is my final rant, gents, on on the show. And I hope people listen. And I want to, just kind of make that my last one. So I'm going to wrap it up with a few thank yous and goodbyes. Okay, so Zach, this is the bit I was talking about, mate. Get ready. This is the last bit. So I started WRRAP because Scrum 5 was pissing me off. Basically, I started WRRAP so that we all had somebody that was us. You know, we could see somebody that was a Scarlet, an Osprey, a Dragon, or a Cardiff Blue, or a Cardiff Central person talking about the same things that we talk about. And for 3 years, guys, this has been one of the most enjoyable, best things that I've ever done. It's been frustrating. It's been, I think I've nearly jacked it in about 4 times and just said, right, okay, we're not doing this ever again. I've had enough. We've dealt with abuse on social media. We've had stuff in between us. But the one bit that I know about this is I've made some really, really good friends doing this. So, and I include you three in that, Jamie, Carwyn, all three Carwyns, Big M, Hugh. You know, I think we've got about 35 presenters in the family at the minute now. It's the first week I started this, it was me and Carwyn one. The second week we did this, no, sorry, it was me, Carwyn one, and Dan, who's now on Cardiff Central. The second week it was me. It's just me talking to a screen for an hour. So to get to where we've got to has been absolutely fantastic. So I want to thank every single presenter that's been on, every single guest that has been on, because it's really meant a lot to me and to the guys that have been on here. I want to thank everyone that's listened. I want to thank everyone that's interacted with us on the hundreds of social media places that we appear on, because it makes a difference. It makes a difference. It would be very easy for us to just sit there and do nothing. So knowing that we're making a difference, knowing that we're helping somehow, is great. And then finally, I need to say a massive thank you to my wife and family who never listen. She's made a point of never ever listening to rap. But for those of you that have been with us for a while, you'll know that. So I've been through a cancer battle. My wife has been through a cancer battle. We're still in that stages of recovery. We've got members of the family and members of the extended family who are currently going through battles and different battles and all of that kind of stuff. And knowing that there's other people out there that will just talk rugby to us for an hour and make everything else disappear, it is a massive crutch for some of us. I can honestly say that through my cancer battle, that knowing every Monday night I had to not think about something for a couple of hours and just sit here and talk about rugby, even when it was Welsh rugby, that those 2 hours were enough for me to get through most of that week. So yeah, a massive thank you to everyone that's listened, everyone that has been a part of it. And I wish you guys and all the people that are still presenting all the best for the coming years. I'll still be in the background. I'll still be doing stuff. I still might pop up every now and again, but thankfully it will be few and far between. So I shall finish my last show once again, as I always do, by wishing you all the best. I thank you very much for your time tonight, gentlemen. And one last time, enjoy your rugby.